Okay, well, hi everybody. My name is Maria Camas. Welcome to Changing the System Women in STEM Fields. I am an undergraduate student at Florida International University studying biological sciences and natural and applied sciences. I have profound interest in public health, medicine, biology. I am an aspiring physician who is also really interested in global affairs. My passions, as it says on the slide, is furthering gender equality, promoting education, advocating for climate change, and empowering the youth. And it was that passion of furthering gender equality that led me to pursue the Millennium Fellowship. I was a part of the class of 2020, and the Millennium Fellowship is essentially a student leadership development program for international undergraduates all over the world. And you create projects that tackle the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And I chose to tackle both quality education and gender equality. That led me to create the system. So the system is a network meant to connect STEM students to successful STEM women. And the reason that I chose to do this was because I noticed that there was a gender gap in STEM fields, but not necessarily that there are less women, maybe, but more that the representation was lacking. And I knew that there were incredible women at my university and abroad that I wanted to showcase. So I created both a YouTube channel and a website that is actually just launched right now. I'll put the link on the chat for thesystem.org. And in that website, you'll actually find some incredible STEM women that I had the pleasure to meet over the course of the past months and also interview as part of the initiative. I actually have two panelists today that I had the pleasure to meet and also get to know, who are successful, amazing women. And as part of the system, since it's essentially an initiative meant to further gender equality in STEM fields, I wanted to take it a step further and actually make an event where women would be given the platform to share their experiences and to make it a very inclusive and amazing, sort of cool event again. And I decided to have a panel of speakers. So, two, as I said before, that I had interviewed, and also an incredible moderator who is also a woman in STEM, as well as two Millennium Fellows who are also STEM students like myself, but have also excelled beyond the classroom in their own projects. So, I wanted to take this time to introduce the speakers. So, our moderator is Camila Uzcategui, who is a PhD candidate in material science and engineering at the University of Colorado Boulder. Her work focuses on 3D printing biomaterials for tissue engineering. Specifically, she works on understanding and developing new materials for 3D printing to mimic the native environment of tissue. Camila built a high-resolution digital light projection 3D printer to fabricate scaffolds for tissue engineering and regeneration. She received a BS in physics and a BA in anthropology from Florida International University and an MS in material science and engineering at the University of Colorado Boulder. Her latest paper on additive manufacturing microscale photo patterning of through thickness modulus in a monolithic and functionally graded 3D printed part is published online in Small Science. She has presented her work at SPIE, Photonics West, SFB, and ORS. Camila is passionate about increasing diversity in STEM through mentorship and outreach. And she was telling me that she is currently a co-founder and CEO of a company she's planning to start. Camila, if later on, you could definitely elaborate on that. So in terms of International Millennium Fellows, we have Nana Abba Bentum, who is a BS biochemistry student at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Ghana, and a class of 2020 Millennium Fellow. Her fellowship project, EduMobile, seeks to advance SDG 4, quality education. EduMobile is a mobile STEM entrepreneurship outreach that is focused on making STEM education practical and equipping students in Ghana with entrepreneurial skills. The maiden run of EduMobile targeted junior high school students in the western and central regions of Ghana. Nana Abba currently serves as the chairperson for the Trade and Technology Committee for the Ghana Biochemistry Students Association in her university, where she leads in training members of the association with relevant skills to their careers and the use of technology and entrepreneurial skills in biochemistry. She has a passion for scientific research, volunteering, and loves reading. Thank you, Nana, for joining us today. We have our next Millennium Fellow, Melanie Ortiz Alvarez de la Campa. Melanie is a non-binary Latinx scientist, digital artist, and writer. In May, they will graduate from the University of Puerto Rico, Rio Piedras, with a BS in Integrative Biology and a minor in Medical Humanities. They were recently accepted to the Pathobiology PhD program at Brown University and will attend in fall 2021. Thank you, Melanie, and congratulations on the acceptance to Brown University. Our next speaker is Dr. Sana Nasim, who received her PhD in biomedical engineering at Florida International University in fall 2020. She has a bachelor's degree in biomedical engineering and a minor in applied mathematics from New Jersey Institute of Technology. Her PhD work focused on the understanding of the production of elastin protein and which specific cell type is responsible for it in the aortic valve. She is passionate about empowering women to pursue higher education. She began her postdoctoral fellowship at Harvard Medical School and also at Boston Hospital in spring 2021. Congratulations. And our next speaker is Dr. Jessica Bartley, who earned her PhD in physics from Florida International University in Miami, Florida. Her dissertation, entitled Exploring the Neural Mechanisms of Physics Learning, focused on characterizing the neural mechanisms involved in student physics learning and problem solving. She is currently a postdoctoral fellow in the Department of Physics at Florida International University, where she specializes in interdisciplinary neuroimaging and education research that aims to develop a better understanding of how learning environments impact the neural development of students' brain networks. Thank you, Dr. Jessica Bartley, for joining us. If you guys noticed, Dr. Jessica Bartley and Dr. Sana Nasim are FIU alums, and it is so nice to bring them back for this event. And with that, we are now ready to begin this amazing panel of women. And I will now pass the torch to Camila to begin.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Maria. It's definitely an honor to be here with all of these incredible folks that we have to talk to today. Thank you all for being here. Please be sure to put any comments or chats or questions in the chat, and we can go ahead and address them later on during our Q&A session. So the first question I have for our panelists is a question that I think we have for everybody in our lives, which is, how are you doing with COVID? How are you kind of processing this situation, and how is life currently right now? And I'm gonna go ahead and let Melanie start, and then if anybody else wants to go ahead after them.
Sure thing. Well, first of all, hi everyone. Thank you for being here today. And I think that, as many of us, this has been an adaptation process, learning and relearning to do everything that we used to do, and now we have to do it a little bit differently. In terms of lab work and still continuing my studies, we've just been doing rotation schedules and trying to just stay on top of things. And overall, really prioritizing mental health, making sure we get some rest, and that we, as much on time as we schedule, we also schedule some off time. So I've been doing well.
Yeah, I think the off time, the giving ourselves a lot of grace, is definitely key in these pandemic times. I know Dr. Sana Nassim was sharing with us a little bit earlier how she's been kind of dealing with this situation. So is there anything that you'd like to share with the audience?
Sure. Well, first, thanks to everyone for being here today. So I was just mentioning early on before everybody joined in that, so I just moved to Boston early January, and coming from Miami to Boston, which is a completely locational and it's with respect to weather and people, it's very different. And with COVID as well, it has been a little challenging. I wouldn't lie about that. Just adjusting to the new environment, which is normal in any circumstances, but with COVID and social distancing and not being able to meet new people, I don't even think I've seen anybody on my floor because everybody's wearing a mask. But I think at this point, it becomes very, very important again, especially being a woman, that finding that support system that is there for you and talking to those people and sharing. It's so important. I've realized it's just become so important to just being honest and be sharing. When somebody asks you, how are you? Like, tell them, like, and I think it really becomes, you realize that not everybody's doing okay. And it's important to just share your thoughts, and then people would actually open up about what they're going through. And you realize that you're not in this alone, and there are so many people going through the same thing. So being honest with everybody is important.
Definitely. Do any of our other panelists want to share kind of their experience during this tumultuous time?
I know that it's been a hard time for everybody, and I personally am doing well over it. I know I'm so lucky because my work allows me to be fully remote. Both my partner and our work allows us to do that, and so we've just basically been staying home and getting the work done that we like doing, and we're so lucky to be able to do that. And other than the anxiety of being in a pandemic, I've been good. I definitely want to echo Melanie's sentiment here of making sure to take care of our mental health. That has been kind of a crucially important thing for me across this. So, yeah.
What about you, Nana? How have you been kind of processing this time?
Okay, it hasn't been so different, but being able to shuffle school both in person and online class, yeah, it's been a new experience throughout our 4-year stay, and yeah, we're coping. And there have been some good times and some bad times, but yes, I think we still move forward through it all. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think being here and kind of holding these events really energizes me and really allows COVID to be better, because you can actually relate to people, you can see what folks are going through, and be able to kind of see yourself in both the wellness aspects and also the struggles of being in a new city and also trying to manage and juggle everything. So moving into kind of the meat of the discussion, which is really why we're here as underrepresented people in STEM. And so why and how did you choose a career in STEM? And I'm gonna pass it over to Dr. Jessica Bartley, who for some of the folks, to just give you a little bit of intel. So right now I'm a PhD candidate at University of Colorado Boulder, but when I was an undergrad at FIU, I actually worked for Jessica. So it's definitely very serendipitous for us to be.
I know it is. Camila helped collect all the dissertation data that that I still do research off of, and I am so glad to see you again, Camila. I know that you are rocking it on your PhD program at CU Boulder right now. So for me, I chose to go into physics initially because, because I loved it, because I was like so passionately curious about it, and I just couldn't learn enough of it. And so that was like initially what brought me into it. And then throughout my undergraduate, as I kept learning more and interacting with it, I realized that a lot of my passion for learning and doing physics was also kind of shared and distributed when I taught physics. I really loved sharing how excited I was about this stuff with people that didn't really know it yet, or didn't know that they were also excited about it yet. So when I chose to go into STEM as a career, it was more because I wanted to make a positive impact in the world. And I felt like one of the kind of confluences of my passions and joys and skills was in being able to share that with people. So I went into a physics education research program that then kind of morphed into a neuroscience, neuroimaging vein of research. So really the reason that I went into STEM is to try and, it sounds corny, but to try and help people realize their passion for STEM and science, and to also help kind of equalize the representation in STEM too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Which I think your project, Jessica, was one of my abilities to see that science didn't have to live on its own in this little like STEM reality of like science, technology, engineering, and math. It's like we live in this very interdisciplinary world. So
Yeah.
we should be able to connect all these different things to each other and use them all at the same time. But yeah.
One of my favorite things still is going to conferences, because usually I go to conferences that are neuroimaging focused, but I make a point to go to conferences that are like high school physics teachers too. And one of my favorite things is presenting this research to them, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is awesome! I can like apply this in my classrooms," and it just makes me feel really, really great.
Yeah, no, I love it. So Sana, I will be talking to both you and Jessica with your first name, but you are both doctors, so I definitely want to uplift that and acknowledge that, because right now as a PhD candidate, I'm like, people better call me doctor at least once in the panel. So Sana, can you tell us a little bit about your STEM journey?
Sure. So I actually moved to US in 2008. So I was in high school. And all my time in Pakistan, nobody really talked to me about STEM. People, like girls especially, following a STEM career, but I've never even heard of, honestly. It's very unknown. And even when people actually end up taking on, like women taking on STEM, they don't end up pursuing it as a career. So when I moved here, and it was time to apply to colleges, and I started looking into what was I interested in high school. And I realized that I was good in biology, and my mom kind of wanted me to go to medical school. And I was really good in math. Math was something that clicked into me, and I was always good at it. I didn't have to memorize it. So it was just, I understood it, took the exam, and I did good. And at that time, still, I didn't have mentor or people that could tell me what STEM, I still haven't heard of STEM as what does a STEM stands for until like I actually went to college. And when I was looking through the listing of majors, and I thought biomedical engineering was a perfect fit for me, because it was it led me with biology, and at the same time, I can go deeper into mathematics. So it was a very naive tick mark that I did in the beginning, and I actually fell in love with the major. It was the best fit for me to see like how I can apply biology with mathematics, which I've never heard of before, and that escalated, and I did research and decided that I wanted to do a PhD, and here I am. So it was like really like understanding myself and understanding where I was going.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like, I think I relate to a lot of the things that you're saying, because it sounds like you were like, okay, I'm good at these things. How do I merge those things with what I actually am passionate about? So, absolutely. Yeah. So let's pass it over to Nana Aba. What was the thing that got you excited about STEM?
Okay, I was actually confused from the start. I knew I wanted to do something cool, something nice and enjoyable, but I was very confused because there were a lot of things I knew. And as Sana said, most parents here in Africa also want their children to be doctors. That's what science almost stood for. But I was almost okay with anything I do. So getting into biochemistry, I found out that I actually wanted to be in research. And yes, it's been amazing so far. I have been able to learn various things, and I learned that the skills in STEM are also transferable, not just with schoolwork. Any aspect of your life, you can also apply the things you learned there. And so, yeah, mine was quite a confused one, but luckily enough, I fell into the path that I wanted to.
That's awesome. I think there's definitely a trend here for the listeners that not only does STEM apply to you solving problems from a textbook, but this can go far beyond into your life. What about you, Melanie? What got you into a STEM career?
Well, I actually, when I first got into university, I just kind of followed similar to Sana. Like I was good at biology, I was good at science. I was the nerd in high school that always did all the science fairs, and I like got prizes for them. And I was like, yeah, this seems natural. But I initially wanted to go into medicine to do probably forensic pathology, and because I saw it as a way of like, okay, if I want to do science but help people, it has to be in medicine. You know, I didn't really know something other than that. And along the way, while I started doing research at my university, I was like lucky enough that it had labs available, and then a lot of very serendipitous things happened in the way, which everything from like a 3-month strike that closed down my university to like a Category 5 hurricane and all these huge kind of traumatic events that happened throughout the career that led me to take on opportunities that came on that just kind of entrenched me deeper into the research world. And that's kind of when I realized like, oh, PhDs are an option, you know, MD PhDs are an option. I can do microbiology research, which I find fascinating, like microbiome research, and apply that to social work and social context. You know, it seemed like it opened up an entirely new world. And a difference to what Nana and Sana was saying, I was also very lucky to have a teacher in high school who was pivotal in kind of putting me on this path to STEM. So we can come back to her. I know there's a question about it, but yeah.
That's awesome. I think something that I'm hearing is how kind of overcoming obstacles and really building that resilience is what kind of gets you to be where you are and gets you to make the decisions that you make. And I think when we talk about STEM, sometimes we have cases where you go biology, biomedical engineering, and straight into a PhD, but most of the time it's kind of a windier road, even though it looks like a straight path, like, oh, I just went to my undergrad and then went to the PhD, but actually it was like, I talked to people and some people told me to go this direction and I got some mentorship or I didn't get mentorship and then found out the hard way that I didn't like it or I did like it. So I think it's really interesting to see kind of how diverse our stories are to get to where we are today. So I think in that sense, how does mentorship affect our careers as folks in STEM? How does that really impact where we are today? So I'm going to pass it back to you, Melanie, because I'm really interested in hearing about your teacher and how they impacted your career.
Yeah, her name was Miss Jeannie Quinones. She is sadly no longer with us. But she was my science teacher basically from 9th to 12th grade. And she was the kind of person that, well, she did a biology major in high school and then a master's. So she was kind of familiar with the research setting, even though she didn't go into it. And whenever she talked to us, you know, from 9th grade, she would talk to us about journals and like, hey, you should, if you're going to do research for this report, try looking for it in a journal. And I used to be very confused of being like, I thought it was like a physical hardcover journal that scientists took around like in movies. and that somehow I had to go to the library and get one, and hope that they had an answer in me. An actual thought I had at that moment. And she took that interest, and she was kind of responsible for signing me up for things. So whenever I'd be like, oh, that kind of water rocket competition sounds fun, she's like, I signed you up. You're going. You're gonna do it. And it was kind of that motivation of just like, if you like something, just sign up for it, especially in science. That kind of led me to being like, hey, I'm good at this. I enjoy this. You know, why shouldn't I try to find something else to do along the way? And I'm really sad that she left us so early. She really made a huge impact on my life, as well as many other wonderful teachers. And I think it wasn't a coincidence that it was a woman as well, that seemed to nurture that impact. I mean, from our class alone that she helped, I know that there's 10 to 15 women that have gone on to STEM in some way or form. It's because of her. So it really, mentorship was the key to just see yourself there and be like, yeah, I can move forward.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate you naming your teacher and how impactful she was. I think it also goes to show that sometimes you need a little bit of a push. Like you're like, I don't think I can compete in that. And sometimes you just need to get signed up for stuff. But yeah, what has been other folks in the panel, what has been like y'all's experience with mentorship? I know for myself, I didn't really understand mentorship. Like I didn't really understand what that was. Like I feel like I knew what the word was, but I didn't really understand kind of how those relationships were formed. So yeah, how was y'all's experience with mentorship?
I could add on to this. I've been very fortunate to have an amazing group of mentors, not just one, sometimes you need more than one, from undergrad, who have really helped me shape the person that I am today. I was a very naive little girl, wouldn't even talk. I would think at least 20 times before I would even open my mouth about anything. And by that time, I lost the opportunity. And those people really, really like took out the real Sana in me. And now I don't shut up, with some good at times. But they really, really helped me understand what were the real treasures that I was carrying within me, and really helped me understand that what I really wanted to do, what is the bigger picture, besides just getting these degrees, besides doing just research, what is a bigger picture? Why am I actually here and exist? Like, I think things like this, like sitting on panels and talking to women about my journey has been so fulfilling than just doing an experiment at times, right? So it has been, and these people have really helped me bring out the best in me and pushing me, like Melanie was saying, pushing you and like telling you like, no, you are capable of this. I remember doing this one experiment. My advisor was like, you're doing this, I'm leaving. And I'm like, I can't. I literally was shaking. And I'm like, I can't. What is this guy doing? And he literally went to California for a whole week and led this whole experiment on me. And I thought I was going to die if I do this because it was so dangerous. And he really believed in me. And I actually did the experiment and I got the positive results. And he couldn't even get in 2 years that I got. And I was just so surprised. He's like, I knew that you were capable. And I'm like, well, I could have died because of this. And it's just so fascinating to see that there are people like really can see potential in you before you even see that. And that's so important. And them being there in your lowest point, in your highest point, and that's very important. And it's important to have that support group for sure.
Yeah, that is awesome. That sounds frightening and also extremely awesome. Like, geez. So yeah, what about you, Nana? How has your experience with mentorship been? So I think she might be a little bit frozen. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Jessica, and then we'll get back to Nana.
Yeah, for sure. I love that story, Sana, because it hits home. I feel that. I think that some of the best mentors I've had have really done an amazing job of walking that line, that really important line of being compassionate, respectful, and giving you your freedom and like supporting you, but also pushing you like past what you think you're just capable of, because that combination of things is critical, I think, in doing science. But I think that the pushing thing also really needs to come together with the compassion and respect. When I think back about the many mentors that I've had and been lucky to have throughout my path to getting where I am now, I think the one theme that really kind of is resounding for me is that we really developed a personal, professional working relationship that was really great and supportive. And for me, one of the huge parts about being like a mentee in a mentor-mentee relationship was not only learning the skills and realizing that I could do it, but developing a sense of identity in STEM and doing this kind of research, which is one reason why I think it's really huge to have the ability to have mentors that look like you and think like you and have experienced similar struggles and similar successes to you. Some of the mentors that I've had, actually a lot of the mentors that I've had have been really amazing women, and they've gone through this path. And because they've gone through this path and they're working with students like me, I can now learn like what are the best ways for me to navigate this path and make it my own, and therefore develop an identity with it. And I think that that identity piece is really critical in persistence in STEM. So yeah, I absolutely agree with everything everyone else has said here.
Yeah, wow. I think I can definitely resonate with your story, Jessica. I think having that sense of familiarity and knowing that you can go to somebody and tell them a personal story while also understanding that they're going to give you good professional advice is, I think, a perfect like mentor-mentee relationship. And something that Sana mentioned is you need to have multiple, that you can't just rely on a single person. You need to have multiple perspectives. Some mentors are maybe going to help you more with the professional development. Some mentors are going to help you more with like your experiment that you're unable to get to work and need Sana to come and do it because you know for sure she'll figure it out. But yeah, I think having that diversity of mentors is really key to a successful career in STEM. What about you, Nana? What has been your experience with mentorship?
Okay, for me, it hasn't been so smooth, but I've along the line met people who saw more than I saw in myself and pushed me to do things I thought I would never be able to do. My SHS teacher, my high school teacher, for instance, used to always recommend me for programs, and I really didn't understand why. I actually felt he might create some sort of attention to me and cause unnecessary hatred. But I realized he saw things in me that I didn't see, and all of those frontline things he was doing were able to help me. They helped me build some sort of confidence with regards to speaking, moving up to people, and also some lecturers I've met here have been able to help me out with a lot of stuff I really didn't think were available to me. Yeah, there are some things you need someone to guide you on, know that this is how you have to go about it. And yeah, I believe mentorship is very, very important in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a current theme is really finding people who see the potential in you, even when you can't see it. So I think that's definitely something that is across all of the panelists' responses. So switching gears a little bit, I want to talk to specifically Melanie and Nana about your experience with interdisciplinary learning. So as Millennium Fellows, this is definitely a component of what you've been doing. And I really want to hear a little bit what projects and what endeavors you've been able to pursue, and that also reflect this passion in STEM that you have and incorporates both. And then we can hear a little bit from Sana and Jessica as well, because I know we're all a little bit interested in interdisciplinary work.
Okay, I'll go first. All right, so as Maria said earlier on, the Millennium Fellowship is about projects to advance the SDGs. And my project was to advance SDG 4, quality education, in line with SDG 9 and 10. So EduMobile was the title of my project. We realized that the world is moving toward fourth industrial revolution, and most Ghanaian youth are left out, basically. So my partner and I, it was a joint project, decided to bring students, mostly in remote areas, to light of what's happening in the world currently. So we took upon ourselves to give them practical STEM education. We took them through practical lessons of the theories they had learned in class. Mostly we here in Ghana are not exposed to research opportunities, and practicalizing very simple things in our classes are quite hard. So that's what we sought to give to the students that we met with. And interestingly, people have various styles of learning. Some people sit in class, listen to their lectures, their teachers, and they are cool. Others too, when you incorporate practicals into their work, they're able to learn better. And we saw all that in a student that we interacted with. And yes, it was very amazing, I should say. So Millennium Fellowship gave me the opportunity to work outside what I would have normally done in class, and also to open the eyes of young students to what is going on in the world now, to give them the opportunity to also learn and be innovative in whatever they wanted to do. And interestingly, they had innovations within them. We just had to give them the chance, or to let them know that they are capable of working, capable of bringing out new innovations, capable of doing whatever they wanted to do. And our project, I think, got to that aim. And we look forward to advancing the project to other communities as well.
That is amazing. Definitely resonate with. It is incredibly amazing, that work, and also makes me think a little bit about what Jessica talked about in terms of understanding how people learn. I think it's really interesting to both understand how people learn and then be able to provide tools to facilitate that learning. So I think y'all are due a conversation potentially after the panel. Melanie, what about you? What has been your experience with your project with the Millennium Fellowship?
Sure. So the Millennium Fellowship at my institution actually is this is the second year ever that they do it. So it was a bit of getting stuff off the ground initially and just kind of learning from what the first class did and working from there. My project itself is something I was already working on since I got to the university. It was I founded the UNICEF Club at my institution, where we did a lot of different community outreach and service activities through that. But what I really wanted to do with the Millennium Fellowship's help was take on a bigger project that we'd done before. So we wanted to help a local boys orphanage in Arecibo that during the pandemic had a bunch of different necessities, especially like in cleaning supplies and access to masks and gloves and just overall financial needs to sustain these 13 kids that were living in the home. And it was kind of a bigger task that we ever really considered doing before. So I used the Millennium Fellowship's training to help me train the rest of my team as well as myself on how could we fundraise in what became a virtual setting, which was like a completely new challenge that we had to get through, how to keep people involved, how to reach out to companies and get sponsorships and whatever it is that we needed to help these kids. And also how to reach out to them and how to be able to interact with them. Of course, with the pandemic, we weren't able to see them face to face because we wanted to keep them safe as well. But, you know, how could we take them into account when we were preparing for this project? And I think that's something that the fellowship really brought me, and that classes that I was taking, especially STEM classes, like there is no skill that I learned in a STEM class which I applied to them. There was purely interpersonal skills, literary skills, all these soft skills that normally aren't as enforced in a STEM curriculum, and that I often know people kind of look down on. I've had a lot of partners in classes that are just like, oh, I'm a biology major, why do I need to take humanities? And it's like, well, yeah, because you're not going to interact with biology people for the rest of your life. Like, you're going to have to be a whole person, not just a biologist. And I think that programs like that, like the Millennium Fellowship, really gives you the opportunity to do some good, but also learn stuff that you're not going to get in like a strict curriculum and apply the things that you have learned. And our project was a success, I'm happy to say. Like, we ended up raising a little over $600, which we used to like get all these supplies that they had asked for, as well as afford a monetary donation and some toys. So it was really nice to be able to give back to them, and it really helped out the team. I'm leaving this year, but I've been running this club for the past 5 years. So it was also a transition, and it helped me like train the new president and the people that would be taking over when I'm gone, which was pretty good as well. But
that is amazing. I have chills hearing about these amazing projects that are being worked on all over the world. This reminds me of, so when I was at FIU, through the Global Learning Department, I founded an organization called GlobeMed at FIU. And the biggest thing for us was hearing what the community needed. So rather than us just going in there and be like, hey, we have some gloves, and they're like, we don't need gloves. I think the biggest aspect of it is having that two-way communication and understanding what the needs of the community is, whether it's access to STEM knowledge, whether it's gloves, whether it's toys, making sure that you really understand the community that you're working with. So I want to open it up briefly in terms of kind of your interdisciplinary learning, Sana and Jessica, and for you to give us brief answers, because I do want to have an opportunity to open it up for the audience to ask us a few questions that are relevant to them. So yeah, Sana, if you want to give us a little bit of a snippet in terms of interdisciplinary learning going on in your career.
So like I said, so I have a biomedical engineering degree from undergrad and grad as well, but I did very interdisciplinary PhD work. So my work was connecting developmental biology and biomechanics, which could be definitely seen as, even my postdoc advisors like, how do you connect these two? And it was a learning curve in a sense that I had to learn a lot of biology, which I have not learned from undergrad or even grad school, and combining it with what I knew as an engineer, which was biomechanics. But it was an interesting aspect, and it really makes you realize that you can actually connect many different fields together, and you can actually cross talk. As an engineer, definitely we learn from different perspectives, and critical thinking is very important. So it really, really helped me understand and combine these two fields together. So it has been a pleasure, like learning. It definitely kicks in imposter syndrome for sure, because it really makes me realize, oh, I don't know this, I don't know that. But being open about it for sure, which we can talk about later. But yeah, learning different technique, like different fields, has been an amazing journey for me.
I resonate with everything you just said, Sana. I really, really do. I mean, my whole research path has been super, super interdisciplinary. I'm a physicist that does neuroimaging research and education research, and kind of my whole drive throughout my kind of adult science career has been connecting education and neuroimaging research, which there's a few of us that do this. Not a whole huge community, but there is a community. It's been challenging because a lot of it has been kind of forging my own way to figure out the best way to connect these fields and present it to communities that don't have expertise in either of these things. Like you mentioned that you had to teach yourself a lot of new stuff going into this. I didn't know anything about neuroimaging before I started my PhD work. I was a physicist and an educator, so I had to like pull myself up on my bootstraps and teach myself how to do functional magnetic resonance imaging research, which was hard, but also super fun and super rewarding. And one of the really amazing things about doing interdisciplinary work is that, yes, it's hard to forge your own way, to figure out the right way to do things and how you want to do things, but you get to do it right. Like you don't, like you get to find the way that you think is the best way to do it, and then set the standard for the rest of people that come after you. And that's awesome. And I just want to quickly point out that interdisciplinary, and like I'm super interdisciplinary within STEM, but I love also popping into other non-STEM communities just to kind of give perspective on my own work, see like its relative importance or relative unimportance, which then helps me guide like which research questions I want to ask next, and also kind of gives me perspective on what productivity means in different fields, because oftentimes it's an agreed upon thing in academia that productivity is this one thing where basically you're always overcommitted for something, and it's not necessarily the case in a lot of other fields. So it really helps me give myself perspective in the work that I do, which I find very valuable.
Yeah, thank you all so much for sharing that. I think definitely a theme here is how interdisciplinary work, both within STEM and with fields outside of STEM that can go into social sciences or things of that nature, really help us to contextualize our work. So for me, I wouldn't be where I am today studying material science if I hadn't studied anthropology and understood the impact of culture and society on health. And that's really what drove me to be here. And Jessica showed me that you could do that. You can combine psychology and physics and neuroscience and all these things. So I definitely want to uplift that topic. So I do want to open it up for questions from the audience. So please put your questions in there. I know that we've covered a lot of different subjects, but really we are open to answering any sort of questions. While you all are doing that, I want to go back into imposter syndrome a little bit. We've been talking about all of the really amazing aspects of being in STEM, all the awesome work we get to do, but Maria talked about how in my bio, I didn't mention that I was starting a company. And that was because of my own imposter syndrome. I was like, you know, we're still really in the early stages. We haven't gotten funding yet. Like we're starting to pitch and stuff. So I didn't want to like claim co-founder and CEO of this company because of that slight imposter syndrome. So I do want to share that all scientists at any stage, women, men, non-binary folks, we all experience imposter syndrome, no matter where you are in your career. So I definitely want to mention that, because I think when I was in undergrad, I was like, all right, when I get my PhD, I'm no longer going to have imposter syndrome because I'm going to have a check next to my name, but it never ends. You just have to realize that we're all going through it and we are all amazing. So I see a question in the chat. I will get back to this, hopefully, if we have a little bit of time. So the question is, how were you able to find a balance with research products, school load, and other responsibilities and obligations? So I think Jessica mentioned this a little bit in terms of like different fields have different commitment styles and different efficiency and productivity definitions. So I want to hear a little bit maybe from you, Melanie, as an undergrad transitioning out of undergrad. How do you deal with kind of research, a project, and everything? And then maybe hear from another person as well.
Sure. And I think that, you know, if there's anyone out there that is applying to grad school in this next cycle and they want to talk to someone, they can definitely reach out to me because it's going to be a nightmare if you do not organize yourself. I will be upfront about that. There is a way to like kind of make sure that you schedule time for everything, and scheduling is going to be kind of the way to go because you are one person and you need to sleep and you need to eat. I know that's not always said or encouraged. So I think it's really more about finding stuff that you are passionate about doing if you're going to be doing extracurriculars and stuff like that, because then when you're setting time for it, you know you're going to be motivated to do that. So for example, I've taken a full course load literally every semester. I've been in college and I've also done a bunch of extracurriculars on top of that. I also write, I also draw, like commission work and stuff like that. And it's all been about kind of making sure that I learn how to say no to things when I can't do them, which was very hard. And it took a lot of years. And I say it's still kind of working on it because I like doing a lot of things. But it's also been more about being honest with yourselves about what time commitments you're able to have and just having a support system in place for when days that you're like feeling really down and maybe you don't have time to make lunch for yourself. Maybe you can ask your parents or your friends or whoever it is, like, could you help me with food today? Like I can't, like I overplan stuff, and you know, having that support really does help. But scheduling, I would always come back to schedule everything. You will forget, promise me. So write it down. Yeah.
Any other, I definitely resonate with the schedule. Sometimes I'm like hour by hour, this is what I'm doing. Any other suggestions from the panelists?
I want to add on something. So every mentor that I had, I would always ask them this question: how do you balance your life? Like, especially like when you have kids and you have everything going on in your life, it's just not STEM or whatever you do in your professional life. And one of my mentors said something very interesting. She's like, there's no such thing as balance. There's juggling. You juggle with things. And I thought it was so fascinating because especially if you're in STEM and you're planning to go in academia, and which has way too many expectations and you're doing so many things at the same time, there are times when you really want to say no, but you can't say no because you just have to, right? In the beginning of your career. And especially having family and all, it's really a juggle. So you just juggle with things and you just keep it going. And definitely scheduling things and making time for yourself as well, prioritizing, setting boundaries as well, but just juggling with everyday life instead of trying to find this balance. Because I'm pretty sure when people have kids, you can balance things. Kids don't ask for balance. They just ask for your 100% self. For sure.
I just want to pop in and add just a little bit to that to say that for sure the juggling thing, but also like it's so easy to have your attention pulled in a million different directions. And one thing that I constantly have to remind myself is a really important thing for me to attend to is myself, because I'm not able to do any of that other stuff. I'm not able to juggle or schedule or whatever it is if I don't take care of myself. So that's something that I constantly have to remind myself. And I think if I had known that going into graduate school, I feel like I would have been simultaneously so much happier, but also so much more productive in my work. So I just wanted to add that in too.
Okay, there is a lot add also is with scheduling, you have to know what works best for you. A lot of people have ways of planning their days, And if you just jump on someone else's schedule, it might work very perfectly for that person, but won't work well for you. So you should find out what works best for you and deal with that in that manner. And also learning to say no. Melanie mentioned that. I think it's very, very important. And it's very also hard for a lot of people to do. I think I'll recommend the book Essentialism by Greg McKeown. Yes, he outlines some steps to aid people saying no in whatever they have to do. You have to be comfortable saying no, knowing that this is something you really don't want to do, and you don't have to, how should I put it, beat yourself up after saying no. You have to be comfortable and confident in saying no to things that you actually don't want to do. Yeah.
I'm taking notes. I'm like, yes, these are all definitely extremely important. The last thing I want to say, I think, to the juggling analogy is sometimes the pins are going to fall and you're just going to have to give yourself grace. You're going to be juggling 27 pins and then some of them are going to fall. And when they do, because they will, you just have to step back and say, it's okay. I'm a human. I'm a person. I'm just going to pick it back up and I'm going to throw it back up in the air or hold that one, depending on your prioritization. So yeah, I think these are amazing suggestions. Definitely taking notes. And I also want to make sure to let you all know if you have further questions for me or for any of the panelists. We are happy to answer any more questions. We are getting to the end of our time. So I want to thank the panelists for an amazing panel. This was really so helpful, I know, to myself and probably to all of the students who are here. So I really want to just show my gratitude to just have such an amazing group of people, women in STEM. And yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to pass it over to Maria to close us out, and I will put my email in the chat in case you have any further questions for me.
Hi guys, thank you so much for joining us. I have been taking notes, just like Camila said. I just wanted to remind you that this was also sponsored by the Global Learning Department in their month of Enacting Global Learning. They have amazing activities and events for students out there. Get involved with the Millennium Fellowship, get involved with your passions, and I think it's really important. We did have a few questions left, so if you are interested in getting that answered, I would suggest emailing the panelists or even staying maybe 1 or 2 minutes after. And I just wanted to say again, thank you very much for joining us. This has been amazing. Make sure to check out the system. And yes, keep being yourselves and keep aspiring for representation, and also live out your dreams and put the most effort in everything you do. Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure to be here and host this event.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maria.
I'm going to see, so we had a question actually from Maria Molina. I don't know if she's still here. She says that she's doing her master's in public health. For the panelists that chose to do a PhD, what steps did you take to pick the correct school and professor to work with?
I think that's it's such a good question. I think every person's answer is going to be so different because I think it really depends on, I would call it like where you want to live, the type of work you want to do, the type of people you want to work with, because that's something that I didn't do in terms of I think finding not only an advisor that you jive with, for lack of a better word, but also as Sana was saying, you're going to be working with your colleagues, the people who are in your lab, very, very closely. So also making sure that you are able to connect with people in the lab in some way or another, whether it's professionally or personally, just making sure that you can have a good working relationship with them as well. So having this diagram of what are your priorities? What are the check marks you want to make sure to check? And then narrowing the list based on that.
I
And
think,
definitely, oh, sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
sorry, go for it, Sana.
And I definitely recommend, don't think that it's a one-way interview when you like want to like join somebody's lab, interview them. As much as they want to get to know you, you should get to know them as well and understand that, or do they align with your values? That's very, very important. And do they understand you as a human and as a person? Because I think science comes secondary and you as a person is important. And that's where all the mental health and your priorities will like sit in. And once you are happy with that, you're content with that, then everything would just flow, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think a really important part of feeling kind of if you would fit in with that mentor and with that group is talking to people in the lab that you'd be working with. Because yes, totally, Camila. It's a lot about where you want to be physically because, I mean, you're going to be living there, but it's also about who you're going to be with in the room while you're doing your stuff. These are kind of your makeshift family for the next several years of your life. So, and it'll cycle out, right? Because there's a natural cycle of people graduating and new people coming in, but I found it was very helpful to spend time with the people in the lab, and you can tell a lot about the culture of the place you'll be working in that way. When I did it, I know I was struggling because I got into well, I knew the research that I wanted to do, so I emailed directly professors that I wanted to work with to see if they had openings, and I felt that was a really valuable avenue for me to kind of see if that's a place I could go and get a connection there. And I know I struggled a lot with making that choice because I got into a lot of places that I wanted to go to. One of them had what seemed like a really perfect research program for me, and another one had the perfect location for me. And it was such a hard decision, but I ended up picking the one with the perfect research for me because I knew that would help me move forward. And as it turned out, the one that was the perfect location for me was in British Columbia, and I really love living on this coast of the United States. And as it turned out, I picked Florida International University in Miami, and towards the end of my PhD, my advisor was all like, yeah, if you want to move over, I'm actually located in Portland, Oregon right now. If you want to move over to Portland, Oregon, because I had finished collecting my data, that would be totally fine. You just write your dissertation from there. And it was perfect because I got the research and the location that I wanted. So I think you just have to, talk with as many people as you possibly can that work in the lab that you would be working in.
I kind of want to add a personal story to this. So I joined in biomedical engineering and I switched advisor in my third year, which is not very common. And that journey of doing that, when everybody was telling me like, this is the most craziest decision you're about to make. Somebody spent so much money on you and you're about to like drop in like the third year, which it's so uncommon. And one of the things I kept telling myself, I'm not going to settle for less. I'm not going to have my mental health being affected constantly. And especially like in a PhD, you're taking this person, your advisor's name for the next 10 to 20 years. Everybody's going to talk about that, right? You don't want to take somebody's name that you're not happy with, right? And I really do think that graduate school is like a marriage where you are like settling with this person. You need to communicate. You need to make sure that you are happy with this person. You can talk about any aspect of your life and your research journey and your career development. So it was so important, and I'm so glad I did that, which was crazy, but I ended up doing it. And I set boundaries with my advisor. The new advisor that I decided to do it, I am like, I need to go to gym at this time. I need to do this. Like, I need to make sure that my mental health is so important to me. And when I said that to her, she was very appreciative of it. And she let me be me. And it was just escalated because since I was mentally happy, I was able to do the work. And do not settle as just because you're a PhD student, somebody's paying for you. Don't let them treat you, because I have heard so many stories where advisors are just like oh, you're supposed to work 12 hours a day from Monday to Saturday, and maybe you can have Sunday off. Like, no, your mental health, your happiness is very, very important. It comes the priority than this research that you're doing for them, right? And sometimes they make you feel like this is all about them, and this is not for you as a training, which is mostly, this is a training process. So definitely do not settle for less, and stand up for yourself. Find the community, again, find the mentors, find the community that will be there for you. I had that community at FIU who stood with me, and they're like, okay, if this is something you want, we'll stand with you. And they really helped me with that aspect. It was crazy for sure, and I wouldn't recommend realizing that these are the issues early on rather than just pushing it and pulling it, because it gets tough in the end. Like when you're writing your dissertation, when you're putting everything together, like it's just intense. So definitely like maintaining your happiness, your mental health, and then understanding that this is all secondary things. So important.
I'm nodding my head furiously over here, Sana, because that is like, I didn't switch labs in my third year. I also went through some struggles with my advisor, but we were able to work it out, and it turned into a really amazing relationship. But yeah, for sure, absolutely everything that you said. And also, I think you can do all the planning in the world, choosing your program, choosing your lab, choosing your advisor, and almost certainly it's not going to end up that way at the end. And being okay with that, allowing for that flexibility, and constantly checking in with yourself of, is this what I want? Is this what I need? Am I okay with this? What are my boundaries? Do I need to like make those boundaries clear to in this relationship, especially given power dynamics between advisor and advisee?
If I could add just something real quick, I think obviously I'm very early on in this, like I'm about to start that degree, but everything that Sana and Jessica are saying really ties in also to that idea of imposter syndrome. So if you're gonna pick a mentor and that mentor is gonna challenge and push you and doubt you, when you're already doubting yourself, it's doing you a disservice, you know? That's why you need to find someone that you're going to be able to lean on when that imposter syndrome really hits, you know, just like, I don't think I belong here. I don't think that I should be here to do that. And having that person in your corner really makes a difference. And I have a lot of friends that are in grad school and have told me like had similar experiences. And I think a way to think about it is that if there's cis white guy in science and doing his PhD and he fails at something in his experiment, it's okay. Science happens and it's never going to be perfect. But then if that happens to you, then you're going to feel like something's wrong with you, because that's the way that imposter syndrome works. So you're kind of setting yourself up to be the best and do the best work that you can do. And when something goes wrong, because it's going to go wrong, like Jessica and Sana were saying, make sure that you have all the resources available to kind of pick yourself up and dust yourself off and try again. So I think that really is what you're looking for when you want to settle in something.
Well, I think that was an amazing, I guess, finish to this panel. I really appreciate all of your input. I wish you the best of luck in your endeavors, and I hope to talk to you guys soon, maybe in a couple of years, to see where you guys are. So thank you so much for joining me today. It was so nice to meet you. Thank you to everyone who stuck around. And
Thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.